Welcome, everyone. It is time for Train Tuesday. I'm your host, Jim Wagon, with Athearn Trains, and man, do I have a show for you today. We have, we've got a lot of pictures to share, so let's get cracking. Let's see who's out there. As always, I have some wonderful product to my left, your right, and I've got comments going live right now on my right, your left. Let's see who's in today. I've got Kevin, Steve, Joseph, Nick, Joel, Brian, another John, Matt, all the way from North Dakota. You're probably warmer than we are right now. Bob from, he's Mr. Erie Lackawanna. Hey, Bob. We have got Derek Glass in the house. Daylight Productions, Andrew, two Andrews. Let's see, we've got Richard, and that not his real name, but I love his call sign, Wicked Insanity. That's interesting. We've got Christopher, Chase, Cody, Ted, Anthony, Hans. Yes, great. We've got some great guys coming in. So I'm going to wait for a few guys to show up. So the last time I joined you folks, I was having hay fever because it's spring, right? As we're talking right now, it is snowing in East Central Illinois, and not quite sure what happened to spring, but hopefully it's warmer where you're at. Kevin certainly wants to enjoy some nachos. Maybe that'll help warm things up. I don't know. But hey, I want to thank y'all for coming in. I'm going to see if we get some last folks coming in, and then we'll get started. We've got Gary, Stephen, Miguel. We've got Steve, Jason, Bob, and Mr. Joel Ashcroft. Matt, Nick. All right. Chris just said it's melting in his town. Well, that's good because it is coming down really hard here in East Central Illinois. Hello, George, JF Rail. Yeah, it's been a weird spring so far. So what I was talking about is last week I had, the allergy thing. This time I'm so dry that I'm going to try not to cough in your ears. So it's a little bit dry here in the studio today. And you probably noticed I got a little something here to my left. You're right. Probably wondering what it is. We've started to, I think I got a sample here you guys are going to want to look at a little bit later. GP18s. We talked a little bit about them. And Sean, yeah, I know. It's always beautiful in California, Sean. It's always nice. So anyways, let's get started. We're going to be talking about Intermodal primarily today. So if you're a fan of the 1980s and 1990s, you're going to like today's show. So let me go ahead and let's start. We're going to talk about Husky Stacks. So let me go ahead and bring this up here. And like I said, you guys that are modeling the 1990s, we've been listening. Hopefully you guys like what we've got coming to your dealers. All right, so here we are. These are the ready-to-run HO scale 48-foot Husky Stack Well Cars. These are standalone stack cars. Kind of interesting time in our nation's rail history, but we've offered these before in ready to run, and they've been really good performers. A lot of you guys out there have been buying them, and we're going to go over some new releases for this month. Now, what I want to do is I do want to make this screen bigger so that you folks can see it. Folks are watching this on a smart device or not a television. Let me go ahead and see if I can do this without losing sound. So here we sound. So All right, so apparently we can't do that. I'm going to try to blow these up so that you guys can see them better, because I know it's a small screen in some cases. So let's see. Let me go ahead and make this a little bit bigger. We're going to start with what we're offering, and then I'll tell you a little bit about these. I mean, this is an interesting subject matter. Intermodal is relatively new to modern rail freight, but we are offering these. As you can see, we're offering them in a total of 4 different road numbers. Now, one of those road numbers actually includes a 48-foot container that you can see there. Now, again, these are standalone cars. They are well cars. They're based on the Gunderson Husky Stacks. And the first one that we're offering is the TTX. That's a 1980s, more of like a late 1980s paint scheme. And then right beside it, for our fans of the 1990s, we've got the BNSF, the original BNSF Circle Cross logo, kind of in the oxide reddish brown color. That too is being offered in 4 different road numbers, as well as that 4th one being offered with a container. And then we've got Greenbrier Leasing. They've been around for as long as the Husky Stacks have been, if not longer. Same thing. We're offering that with 4 different road numbers, and that one, the 4th one, comes with a BNSF container, which is kind of cool. That old logo from pre-2005, the green and blue Circle Cross logo, as it's been called. And then last but not least, we've got Northwest Container with a 48-foot Conquest container in the 4th one. So for fans of the 90s, these are going to be everywhere. In the case of the BNSF, they're going to be everywhere in the system after 95. You can still see these on the rails now. They're not as common as they used to be, but they are certainly something that some fans of the 90s and 2000s modeling era are going to want to pick up. So a little bit about these cars, or Intermodal in particular. Intermodal, like I said, is relatively new. By the 1970s, believe it or not, most traffic was still done with box cars and regular freight cars. Intermodal was at its infancy, but there was American President Lines, and I got to look at my notes. Sealand was the other container company. They had started using a container box method of bringing things over by ship, because once again, more items were coming in that were not being produced domestically. They were being brought over from all over the world. And so one of the problems that they had with the early days of container is the containers would be loaded onto a vessel, they'd be sent to a port, and they would be promptly unloaded and broken down and either put in trucks or box cars. And of course, that's really cumbersome, especially if you have something that's extremely desirable and needs to get from California to Chicago in a relatively short amount of time. So all the way back in early 1970s, the FRA employee by the name of Dave DeBoer worked with representatives of the Southern Pacific and said, hey, let's see if we can develop a system that will allow us to take those containers and remove them from the vessels and put them onto trains. Now, this was something that a lot of railroads at the time, they were not real too keen about. It was one of those things that, it was brand new. This was something that was extremely new. And this is something that we take for granted nowadays. But what ended up happening is Southern Pacific started working with Sealand, and they started working with freight cars. And as early as 1972, they started putting these ideas together. And then by the late 70s, Southern Pacific was starting to move some freight by container. So overnight, almost, this changed everything. Let's go back to 1978 when this was brand new for the railroad. Let's not forget, though, either, that railroads had actually been playing around with container ideas all the way back to the 1920s. In fact, Pennsylvania Railroad and New York Central had worked on prototypes. So, sorry, I just got a text from one of the producers. So what ended up happening was it was an experimental thing from the 1920s all the way to the early 70s. And it wasn't really until the representatives with Southern Pacific and Sealand really started to engineer some stuff. And by 1978, we're at the beginning of intermodal traffic. Now, something else to remember too, intermodal traffic was pretty much limited in the 1970s to just flat cars and piggybacks. So container was brand new. But by 1985, Gunderson had entered the what they call the well car market, which is what we're showing here, these well cars. And their first prototype was the twin stack, extremely reliable freight car. And these were articulated freight cars. They would be anywhere between 3 to 5 well sets, and they would hold a 40-foot container, which was standard at the time. Now, flash forward, like everything, remember we've talked about the semi-trailers, how they got bigger. Well, of course, these containers also fit on spine chassis that work with trucks. So once the interstate said, hey, you know what, trucks can have longer trailers, containers changed as well. No longer were they just 40-foot containers. They went to bigger ones. And by 1986, I believe it was, 1986, the 48-foot containers were commonplace. So these cars here reflect their period. They're very popular in the early 90s, very popular throughout the 2000s, and you can still see them. I went rail fanning again on Saturday, and I saw one or two of these. And unfortunately, I didn't have a chance to get pictures to put on the show here to show you guys, but they are still common. They're still used. Now, some of you may be wondering, why are they standalone? Wouldn't it make more sense to have a articulated set? In some cases, it does make sense to have an articulated set of 3 to 5 well cars, but in other circumstances, it doesn't always work out. One of the biggest reasons is if you wanted to have something extremely heavy in those containers, it's quite possible you could max out weight in one well platform on an articulated set versus one that's a standalone. If you think about it, the articulated share a truck. If that weight is too heavy, it can do damage to the freight cars, rails, all kinds of different things of that nature. So this is one of the reasons why they do it. And another reason is real simple. Some of the customers that do take these in, they might not have room for a 3 or 5 set of well cars. So much like a standalone box car, you have one freight car with an A end and a B end that is just that one well car, and it will hold the 48-foot containers. So once again, I mean, these are great. If you're doing the 1990s, any class 1 or class 2 railroading that had container service, these are definitely going to be something that you're going to want for your layout, or if you're one of the guys that's into Fremo or some type of modular setup, these are great for making extremely long prototypical looking trains. And since we've offered them before, and we're offering them again with newer road numbers and more selection, it's going to be easier to build that train. So we can't talk about well cars without talking about containers. So we got to talk about containers too. Containers are pretty much ubiquitous to modern day class 1 railroading. In fact, like I was saying earlier, Saturday, I rail fanned the Transcon, which was the former Santa Fe line from California to Chicago. And that line is pretty much just intermodal. There are some piggyback trains. There are some auto racks, but there are a lot of container traffic that goes through there. So think about some of the things that you have in your house, your workshop, even your garage. It probably at some point came in on a container. So let's show the 48-foot containers. And again, this is going to be for the guys that's modeling the 1990s. You're definitely going to want to see about getting some of these in. And again, everything that I'm showing you today, you're going to want to get to your dealer before the end of the month. That's actually, believe it or not, even though it's snowing out, it's the next Friday, the 30th. I can't believe it's snowing, but Mother Nature has a poor sense of humor. I'm going to zoom in on these a little bit here so that you guys can see them. So yeah, 48-foot containers. Now remember we were talking earlier that, you know, it was the 40-foot that was real common. And again, what's the process of these containers? It's really simple. They are all loaded on a ship from one port. They come to another port. They are offloaded the ship. And you remember back in, I believe it was about October or November, we were offering those Athearn ready-to-roll tractors. Those little tractors, they run around the yard. They put the containers on a spine chassis and hook up that tractor, and they put them into essentially a yard, much like a freight yard. And they move those around to a truck. A truck can go to its final destination and drop off its freight. Or in other cases, in most cases, what we're talking about here, they're loaded from a crane to these well cars that we were talking about previously. Those well cars are all loaded up. That train leaves, we'll say Long Beach, California. And that goes all the way to Chicago nonstop. Which is a lot faster than multiple trucks going from that route to Chicago. But once it gets to Chicago, they're offloaded again, and then they're put onto spine cars, and then the semi-trucks take them to the individual customers. Railroading really did change a lot from the 70s until now, because again, we had trains that would deliver to individual customers. It was not unusual for a boxcar to be spotted at a small warehouse somewhere on the edge of town. Nowadays, that's not quite as common. Railroads only want the larger customers, and railroads generally go from point A to point B. Unless you're a large grain facility or a large manufacturer or grocery distributor or something of that nature, most of the stuff now is going to come in on container from point A to point B, and then it's taken to the semi-tractor. And that has basically replaced the switcher, the local town switcher. So we're offering these in these roads here. We've got the Conquest, and again, these are 3-packs. We're offering 2 different 3-packs. There's the Conquest pack 1 and 2. We have CSX, again, 1990s. So you guys that have been bugging us about 1990s stuff, here you go. We've got the Rail Bridge and the ITEL, both, of course, from the 1990s. Going to the mid to later 1990s and into the 2000s, we've got the BNSF, and we've got Extra. So these, again, they're fully assembled. They're easy to stack. And these will work perfectly with the ready-to-roll 48-foot Huskies that we just talked about. So there you go. I gave you guys 2 from the 90s, sometimes into the 80s, but mainly we're talking 1990s, 2000 stuff. So before we let off on the ready-to-roll, I want to look in the comments, see if anybody had any questions about the containers or the Huskies. All right. Now here's a question for you guys. How many of you guys out there that do the 1990s, if you're modeling container freight, how many of you guys have a home layout, or do you run on a club layout or a modular layout? Just give me a shout out, and I'll read some of your answers here. Really want to see what you guys are running. and we are slowly opening up in the country so that train shows are going to start showing up again. And I know some of you modular guys, you guys are into modular, Fremo and N-Track and those type of standards are probably chomping at the bit to get out there in the shows. I know I am. So definitely. All right. So I'm looking through here. Everybody seems to be pretty happy with what we've covered so far. So again, you have until on the end of this month to order these. So pre-order these through your dealer. And I will let you know that in the past, the containers especially, they do sell out quickly. So you're going to want to get those ahead of time and pre-order them so that when you get to the hobby shop and these come out, you're not left behind. And by the way, we're going to talk a little bit about pre-orders in a little bit, because already a release that we talked about last spring and have released, we're completely out of in our distribution center. So that's why we always talk about pre-ordering, because if you don't, you might end up missing out. All right, so the last thing I've got for you guys today is a Roundhouse offering. And we wanted to do some Roundhouse box cars again. So we went ahead and did some ACF 50-foot box cars. I'm going to try to zoom in these just a little bit so you guys can see them. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just zoom in all the way, because the artwork on these is so cool. And yes, they will have couplers. They will have couplers. This is just the way the artwork was, just to give you guys an idea of what they're going to look like. Now, the first one we've got, check this out. Santa Fe Railbox. Well, former Railbox, now Santa Fe. And, check that out. A little bit weathered. You can tell the original owner was Railbox, but now it's Santa Fe. If you look over here, this has been kind of repainted with new Santa Fe reporting marks. Get some new information here. These are all like this. There's going to be 3 of these offered. And these are perfect for the mid-1980s. So anybody that's modeling the 1980s, these are perfect for. And again, the Roundhouse, they're not as prototypically strict as, say, a Genesis or even a Ready to Roll. These are this is our way of offering more of a budget conscious freight car, easy way for you to fill your fleet. Or if you're somebody that goes to a lot of shows and you don't want all that detail to get broken off, these work great for that. They work great for those operating sessions where you have some modelers that show up that may not be quite as delicate as you. It's always good to have something to represent what you want to model, maybe just not with quite as much detail that could break off in some cases. Now we're also offering the Ashley Drew and Northern 1970s. Pretty cool paint scheme. And I know a lot of you guys out there that are Ashley Drew and Northern fans, this is a car that you're going to want to pick up. Again, doing that in 3 different road numbers. We had to represent the Midwest. Chicago Northwestern. Real eye-catching color scheme here. Bright yellow. And again, this is 1980s. Pretty much everything on this page is going to be 1970s, 1980s. And at the risk of butchering and hurting the feelings of my friends in the Southern Hemisphere, I am not going to say that, but I will say it's FCP. And that's cool. This is one we haven't really done before. We have had some requests for this line, and we wanted to go ahead and offer this for you guys. Again, 3 different road numbers, and this is representative of a freight car from the 1970s. So the 2 last ones that we're going to do are the Florida East Coast 1980s paint scheme, their famous hurricane logo, also in 3 different road numbers, and again, 1980s. And then 1970s early Railbox. So very similar to the Santa Fe ones that we talked about earlier, but these are still lettered for Railbox. Now, a couple of good things to note about these is we're equipping these with 70-ton roller bearing trucks with 33-inch metal tuned wheels, which means they'll operate on any track. They'll operate all the way from your standard snap track with 100 all the way down to code 70, the real fine code 70. So there we go. We got a little bit of everything. Pretty much today we talked about 1970s all the way up to, we'll say, about the 2000s with everything that we've talked about so far. So I'm going to look out there and comment, Leon. Let's see if anybody had any questions. Got a little bit of a lag here today on the live feed. All right. Now, some of the stuff that I've talked about today, specifically about containers, well cars, piggybacks, things of that nature. A real handy resource, this comes from us from Kalmbach or Model Railroad, is a piggyback and container traffic book. And this is actually written by Jeff Wilson. This is a great book if you model any of the container or piggyback type things. These are, in each chapter covers in detail everything from the trailers to the flat cars, the evolution of the well cars, containers, how to simulate the operations as such. So if that is something that interests you, definitely check that out at your hobby dealer. You can also order those online. That's by Kalmbach. That's the same folks that bring you Model Railroader every month. And it's a great resource. It's a great way to make sure that you've got, the right models for what you're doing. And it's also a great way to kind of get some ideas on operations and things of that nature. So great book. I suggest you pick it up. And if it's snowing like it is today, maybe put on a pot of coffee and read it, because certainly not going to be doing much outside today. All right. So you probably remember we've been doing this contest for a little bit, and this contest ended at midnight, and like I suspected, a lot of people finished up late last night. We got a lot in, like just snuck in, just barely made. It was almost like tax season. It was like being at the IRS at 11:58. All these submissions came in. And that's great, because now we've got some great stuff to share. And right now, the Athearn team is going to be going through and looking to see who the winner is and who the two runner-ups are. Now, for right now, I want to show you guys what we got, because we got some really talented folks out there, and it's only fair to show you what they've been working on and what they've done. Everything I'm about to show you here is eligible to be the winner and the runners-up on the Prime For Grime contest. So without further ado, let's go ahead and show what we've got. So like I said, we started the Prime For Grime contest just recently, back in March. And the rules are simple. You went to our website and you selected one of the box cars that we had listed that was eligible. You took a picture of that box car before you started weathering it, and then you weathered it. And the goal was to fool us at Athearn if that was a real freight car or if it was a model. And we had quite a few entries. So let's get started and see what we got. All right, first up was Ben, and he bought the Golden Triangle Railroad box car. Here's the before and the after. So really good job on the weathering. Check out the roof. The faded, just from the dust and the dirt and accumulation. And He's even got some graffiti on there, some simple graffiti on the right-hand side, and he's got some more typical graffiti that you would see nowadays on the left-hand side. So Ben did a great job on that. He's certainly in the running, so we'll see how he does. Up next, we got one from Antonio. He also did the Golden Triangle Railroad offering. And there it is. Now check out what he's done here. Check in between the panels. He's got that wear and rust, very typical of freight cars, to weather like that and rust like that. He did a really nice job of capturing that. The roof has, even though it's been anodized, it still has all kinds of manner of weathering to it. And one other thing to point out too is the Scotch-Brite, nice and clean. They'll get dirty, but they like to keep that clean for safety reasons. Now, Aaron Fisher had a great story. I won't go into it here. We'll probably post it on our social media accounts. But he had a really cool story that goes with his. And he started with this one. Now, I'm not sure if that got broken in shipping. But why worry about lemons when you can make lemonade out of lemons? And that's exactly what Aaron did. Here we are. So he made this a boxcar for the Atomic Beer Company. And apparently that Atomic Beer has more than just your standard water. Apparently there's some isotopes there too, because based on this glow that I'm seeing around this cow pond and the glow coming in from that boxcar, I'd say the Atomic Beer is pretty atomic. I even see guys in hazmat suits, so it's pretty cool scene. It's more of a fanciful scene, but really cool on the creative side, and really cool how he took a freight car that had been damaged and had done something like this. Really good on the weathering and pretty cool about telling a story with that picture. Brad chose this boxcar here for his starting point. And check this out. Now, a couple of things that I noticed on Brad's boxcar. Not only does the roof look correct, not only the chipped paint at the top, just from years of weather. Check out the sides. You see the scraping? Got all these little rust marks, typical of boxcars as they're getting pushed in and out of service. The freight door, of course, takes the brunt of the damage. But here's what really is something that he took from the real world. You've got this graffiti on here. Look. Apparently, whoever did this graffiti, they went right over the reporting marks, and typical of the railroad, they grabbed some paint and they stenciled on the numbers. So that's a good eye. That's, all the information is still there. And that is definitely something that you would see in modern times. So great job, Brad. Antonio, he did another one too. He did this freight car as well. There you have it. Just grimed up. Not quite as extreme as the other one that he did, but still much better than just your out-of-the-box boxcar. A lot more believable that way. C.A. Fain started with the Bangor and a rustic car, this orange car, and it's still looking pretty good there, but look what he did. I bet our developers out in California will appreciate this car because of the graffiti. But really nicely done, and it's also interesting to note too that the graffiti is just a shade cleaner than the rest of the car, just like it would be in the real life. I mean, there's a good layer of dust and dirt, and the trucks are nicely weathered. And then you've got not too bright, so it looks like the graffiti's been there a while, but Just long enough. It's a nice job. Chase, he did the BKTY. This yellow one was really popular. Check this out. According to his story, this boxcar was spotted at this factory. And the factory went out of business. The boxcar had been there a number of years. The railroad never came to pick it up. But when they finally did come to pick it up, well, they derailed it. Is surveying the damage, but it definitely looks like a freight car that's been sitting there for quite a while. So good job, Chase. Even the dog there approves. Antonio had also picked up the Bangor and Rustic car. And he did a great job here. Look at, you've got some repair work on the roof. You've got some repainting and repair on the side of the boxcar, just beside the door. And it's also interesting to see how the rust has formed. Sometimes these boxcars are spotted at an industry where they're partially covered. It's just interesting to see how his weathering on this freight car was. And that's where it's always important to look at pictures. Pictures really do help, but that was really nicely done with the streaks of rust. Kristen, he did a golden triangle as well. There it is when he just brought it home from the shop. And, you know, this one looks great. I mean, they all look great, but this one at first kind of, oh, we on a main line somewhere? I can just make out looks like maybe a Santa Fe Jeep. Great weathering here. Certainly doing a slightly different take, not as much graffiti, more of your dirt and grime on this one. And nice little setup on what he's got here. Dave sent us this Bangor and a Rustic. This is how it appeared when he first got it. And there it is. Same thing. He kind of did the same thing with the roof. He had a section there that had either been replaced or repaired. And I've noticed, too, seeing some of these out around Galesburg, there's still some places that take boxcar. Yeah, depending on what they're loading and unloading, you're going to see a lot of weathering and soil, dirt, things of that nature around these corners like he's done here. So he's done a great job. Jacob sent his entry in as well. Here it is, fresh out of the box and into the, it looks like it's in a spray booth. Wow. So there you go. There's another example. This one here, he made sure all the important data was covered. You can just make out where it looks like the railroad would have painted that square out and then applied some black paint and put its reporting marks. Great job on the rusting of the sides in between the panels there. Great job. Noah sent this in, and Noah must know we're in Illinois Central area. I don't know if he thinks the Illinois Central locomotive is going to help him out or what. Maybe he thought that. Either way, it's a great choice of a locomotive and a great choice of a boxcar. He started out with this and ended up with this. More of a subtle approach. Definitely dirty. Definitely got some weathering in there and a little bit of damage around the doors and such. But he might be modeling more of the 1980s. You don't see the reflective safety stripes. You still see the COTS wheel that we talked about a few weeks ago. So it's just kind of dirty and dusty. And of course, you don't see the graffiti on this one. So it's probably Noah's probably modeling, I would say, about the 1980s or so. Tim, we shared Tim. Tim was actually one of the first ones to sign up and send in his work, but it bears repeating. Here's his before the golden triangle. And here it is after. Great job on the dusty, dirty, fading out everything and adding the graffiti. But once again, the graffiti had at one time covered up some all the important information, and it's back. You can see where the railroad stenciled that out and put all the data. Jackie Brown, she also found a golden triangle. She started with this, ended up with this. That definitely looks like a boxcar that's been in use for a long time. Really nice work on the roof. Really nice job on everything from the wheels all the way to the graffiti here on the side. Graffiti looks real fresh. It looks like it just happened. Maybe it happened there at that spot. But great job. Thomas, he sent in this. He started with this, ended up with this. This really looks good, especially in the surroundings that he has it on. We shared this a couple of weeks ago. Thomas was another one that sent in his entry early. Really good job. Really definitely looks the part of a freight car that's seen a lot of action. Here's something that a lot of us miss in our weathering. You see these two stripes? Well, these ends get beat up pretty bad from throwing up everything from dust to dirt to even rocks. And next time you look at a freight car, look at the ends like this, and that's not real uncommon. That really does happen, and he did a nice job simulating that. And Chuck, he was one, he just barely made it. He made it at 11:59, I think, this morning. He started with the Bangor and a Rustic. End up with this, and this looks like a car that you would see anywhere in New England anyways. It doesn't take long for them to get dirty and grimy, and this is definitely an example of that. And then Connor, he sent this in, and I think we showed this one a couple of weeks ago as well. And just a really nice job. Very subtle weathering. A little bit of graffiti down there, but subtle. And really, really good job. So some really nice stuff. So for everybody that sent in their work, thank you. We at Athearn really appreciate your work, and you did some great stuff. Now, like I said, what we're doing right now is Athearn, the Athearn team is looking at all this stuff, and we've got a lot of work ahead of us because you guys did some great modeling, and we're going to sit down and take a look at those and see which one we think is the grand prize winner and the two runner-ups. So once again, there's two runner-ups and a grand prize winner. Now, the grand prize winner, if you're watching this or if you're watching this later on YouTube, we're gonna give you a call. We're gonna give an email, however you wanted us to contact you, and we're gonna contact you and say, "Hey, congratulations, you won. What do you win?" Well, you have your choice of one of two different Genesis locomotives that will work great on your layout or your club layout, and you also get to come on the show with me and tell us how you did what you did, because obviously if you won the grand prize, you've got some modeling ability, and we want to see what that modeling ability is. That's the great thing about model railroading is all of us are continually learning new things, and we want to share how we do things. And so we're going to have you come on board and give us a quick little tutorial. I know a lot of you guys out there that send in your pictures, you send in multiple pictures of the process, and we do appreciate that. We don't show them all, but the winner will probably share those pictures of the process, and hopefully everybody else that's out there watching will learn some new techniques. I know I certainly will. There could be some new techniques out there that I don't know about or you don't know about. So definitely tune in for that. We'll probably be talking about that next Tuesday, and we will have that person on if they can make it. If they can't, we'll probably just do a quick interview and put it on later. But great stuff. And then, of course, the runner-up. We've got 2 runner-up prizes. They get a freight car, so they can weather that freight car just like they did their runner-up. So really happy about the amount of models that came in, and it's obvious that you guys are really good modelers. And man, it just reminds me how much I miss going to shows, because I would love to talk to everybody that brought in these great samples of weathering. So good job, everybody. We'll be working on getting the results here soon. And if you are the winner, we'll be contacting you, and looking forward to that. Now, we've got some more contests coming up throughout the year. We are trying to work on a contest that will start in June and go out through July. So be thinking about that. And then, of course, we're going to have another larger contest coming up in the fall into the winter. In the meantime, feel free to keep working on your layouts and your freight cars and all of that other forms of modeling, because before you know it, we will be going back to shows again. So that will be great. Okay, so last thing, and then we're going to do some rail fanning. And hopefully we don't have to worry about the Train Tuesday curse, which is we're actually going to have some trains. But a couple of things I wanted to show you. Right here, as I was saying, we've got the GP18s. Now, these are all new from Genesis. These are brand new models. Yes, we've had GP7s, and yes, we've had GP9s. GP18's a slightly different animal. And again, we're offering them in lines that were some of the first operators of the GP18s, including the Baltimore and Ohio. Now, you can't see it from here, because even with my nice camera there, you can't quite make it out. But I want to do today's shout out. And of course, all you B&O guys already know the answer, but I want to know in a shout out, which end is the front end on this GP18? Is it the long hood or is it the short hood? I'm looking at comments. Throw your comment out there so you can get a shout out. Long hood forward, short hood forward on the GP18 for the Baltimore and Ohio. All right, come on, guys. I know you're watching. Who's going to get it first? All right, here we go. Nope. So technically, it was Winona that got it first, and I apologize. You guys, all of a sudden, that feed just came in. Yes, it went long hood forward. So interesting little bit of history, too. Years later, when these became Chessie, if they ran long hood forward, that's where the Chessie the cat went. So something for everybody to remember. Let's see. I apologize for having a little bit of a lag here today. But anyways, back to the GP18. So these are Genesis. I was going to get one of these running for you guys today, but we had so many entries come in for the Prime for Grime contest at the last minute. I wanted to edit those and get those for the show. But don't worry, these aren't coming in until June. You've got a little bit. Now, we announced these last spring, and they're going to be available about the middle of June. If you pre-ordered like the Baltimore and Ohio one here, which is the only Baltimore and Ohio one that we're offering in this release, and you think you may have missed out, then definitely give your dealer a call. There's a chance you can still get one of these. In the next coming few weeks, we're going to show more of these locomotives, and maybe even get some video for you guys to see. I know I'm excited about these because they're pretty much a locomotive that I grew up with. GP18s were definitely a hard-working locomotive, not quite as popular as the 7s and 9s, but definitely ones that got around and even made it to my little short line as a kid, the New England Southern. So definitely we'll talk more about the GP18s in the next coming weeks. And remember, I was saying earlier how important it is to get your pre-orders in. Anything that we talk about at the beginning of the show Genesis, ready to roll, Roundhouse, N scale, all of that. If you really like it, just do yourself a favor, contact your dealer, do a pre-order. Why? I'll give you an example why. 2 weeks ago, I told you guys that the N-scale big boys with DCC and sound were coming in. Now, if you pre-ordered one of those big boys, chances are you either have it now or your dealer's already contacted you. But I also said, and I think a few of you guys were listening, that if you did not pre-order, you still had a chance to maybe get one of these. And we did a couple of special versions as well. Well, they came in stock late last week, shipped to dealers this past Wednesday. Now, what I've got here, I wish I could say it's mine, but it's not, because our distribution center is completely out of these. So again, if you ordered one of these, pre-ordered one of these, you are a smart person because you will probably have yours soon. If you did not pre-order, you will want to get on the internet or on the phone with your local dealer and see if you can still find one of these. But I can tell you right now, they are completely gone from our distribution center. So right now they're at dealer shelves. And you smart folks out there that pre-ordered them, well, you're all set. I'm not, but that's all right. Maybe next time. All right, so you know what time it is? It is time to do some virtual rail fanning and some questions and answers. And you know, each week, in the last few weeks, I have been trying to get something that had rail action so that you guys had something to watch while I'm talking trains and answering questions. I thought, you know what? Let's go to British Columbia. Now, when I was there earlier, it was busy. Let's see if it's still busy. Maybe I should have somebody in the comments kind of guess. Let's go to British Columbia. See if we can see some Canadian rail action. Well, there's some highway traffic. Now, earlier there were 2 trains going by. Let's blow that screen up so you guys can see it okay. There we go. Okay. Wow. Well, I guess the only thing we can do right now while we wait for a train is see what's out there in comment land, see if you guys have some questions. I'm going to go through here. I know a couple of you guys started asking some questions. Terry, you must be talking about the big boys. Should have made more. Well, that's why you pre-order. Chris, I'll throw your question up there. It's rather long. He says, hey, Jim, since you did the Big Boy 4014, any chances you could look into the Strasbourg steam locomotives? I've heard they have a great history with great rolling stock and cars and could go great with Athearn HO and iron scale. Well, that's definitely a possibility. And Chris, you basically reminded me one of the best things that you can do if you've got an idea for a new product for Athearn is to go to the Athearn website, go to contact us, and go to product suggestions. Now, while I'm on that, very important, on the product suggestion email, please realize we will not answer. Okay, that is basically a sorting service for us to realize, maybe we should do some more Rio Grande stuff. Maybe we should do some more Main Central stuff. That's what that's for. So if you have a technical question or a question about your warranty or anything of that nature, do not use the product suggestion email. That is just for product suggestions. So I just want to give you a warning. If you won't send a question into there, you won't get an answer. So just remember that. That is just for product suggestions. We've had a few guys, maybe they were confused and they hit the wrong email link and sent a question. And if you never got an answer, well, that's why. It's basically a collection service for us to see what you guys want Athearn to make. Let's see. And Dustin, I see your question. It's a rather long question, but it's about your Triclops. Contact Athearn customer service. If you go to our Contact Us page, you'll see that email link there. We are still in the middle of the move. It's going to take a little bit to get everything up to 100%, but we do have representatives there that can answer the email and any concerns that you have. If you did have missing bearing caps, please contact the Athearn help email. Let them know what locomotive you have, the quantity and the colors of the bearing caps that you need. And we do have those in stock in our Champaign, Illinois facility. So the turnaround on that is pretty quick. Just let us know. If you have any other concerns about your recent purchase of the Triclops, please list your concerns in that email and we'll be more than happy to help you out. We've got some new comments. What do we have? Yes, we had a dog walker out there, but no trains. I think the trains go on vacation when we have Train Tuesday. Maybe that's when they stop for beans. Let's see. Oh. Jake, there's a good question. Any chance we'll see another run of the Juanita-built NS SD70Ms? Definitely a chance. If we have more folks like you, Jake, that want to see it, it's definitely a chance. You know, we'll sometimes rerun things even in the same roads, maybe different numbers, just because technology just keeps changing. Remember when we did the end scale big boys before, they were slightly different, and that's true with anything. There's always going to be more detail or more technology packed under the shell. So there's a possibility. Yeah, I'm going to put that, David, because it's funny. Think they know when you log in. Yeah, I think you're right. I think you know. I think they know. And by the way, I am seeing your suggestions, and if I see a suggestion, I might stop and take it. Andrew, hey Jim, do you think Amtrak's 50th birthday will the HO scale Capital Corridor cars be released? Well, I don't know. I used to talk to the guys in development a lot, but I used to talk to the guys in development so much they never got anything done. So, you know, they kind of lock their doors when I walk around. Yeah, I think, well, maybe. I don't know. I figured up in Canada they'd still be snowmobiling and skiing. And if any of you guys out there in comment land are seeing something on Virtual Railfan where there's more action than highway action, throw it in the comment section and I can go over there real quick. Because the Train Tuesday curse strikes again. Oh, yeah. All right. What else have we got here? Nick said he heard Amtrak, and he's ready to go. He likes Amtrak. Nick, not this week, but soon. I'll have something for you. So stick around. You like Amtrak? I think you're going to like an upcoming Train Tuesday real soon. Oh, okay. What do we got here? Go to the Barstow cam. Okay, let's check it out. Let's do that. You guys be thinking of questions. I'm going to go find the Barstow cam. And let me remove that real quick. And we'll go to station identification. This is the Athearn Train Tuesday channel. Coming to you live from an abandoned farmhouse in East Central Illinois. Okay, so you said Barstow. Let me check. There we go. I don't know. I don't see anything there either. Oh, wait a minute. No, you're right. Here we go. Let me get this up. Yep. And look at that. The internet strikes. It's just not fair. We found a virtual railfan camera that has trains, but no internet. We'll leave it on there for a little bit and see what happens. Don't worry, Nick. I won't tell your bank account if you don't tell my bank account. Robert says you've ordered 2 of the new Norfolk and Western F7s, the Genesis units. Yeah, I think you're going to like those. Robert, which ones did you get? Did you get the patched one, the blue and gray? Did you get the black one? Did you get the overall blue one? Let us know in the comments. Nope. No, not me anyways. It can't be too abandoned because I have power. Although there's been a few times that this signal gets lost and you guys lose me. Okay, so I can't remember who suggested the Barstow cam. Good catch. Why it's not functioning, I don't know. Probably because out there it's so nice and warm that the camera just couldn't handle the heat or something. We're going to try another one, don't worry. I could go to Galesburg, but I think you guys are probably getting tired of Galesburg. And I appreciate you guys watching on Virtual Railfan and let me know if there's something out there because, you know, nobody wants to watch a screen with nothing in it. Let's see. Let's try this one. There we go. Magical train moving. There we go. And it's stack stuff. That's what we were talking about today. All right, so there we go. We've got some trains now. Did I miss any questions? Let me see. Let me go back up a little bit while I was running around there. Winona Rich. Ohio Central System and a GP something. Actually, I'm building 2175 as we speak, and yes, it's on an Athearn chassis. That'd be kind of cool. Don't be afraid to send that picture at some point, because we definitely want to see what you guys are working on. Ted, what about the Wisconsin Southern 40th anniversary SD40-2? Really cool subject material. My suggestion to you would be to, you know, give us a call on that product suggestion email. Let's see. Finally. We've got 2, so that's even better yet. So pretty happy about that. Let me see. Got some great comments here today. Late Night Model Railroad. And his question is, how easy is it to remove the top off a ready-to-run boxcar? I ordered a new one, and the weight inside is causing the entire thing to lean to one side. Yeah, that sometimes happens with the glue. Not enough glue, or dries up in shipment. It gets jostled around, or depending on how old the box car is. Um, it's not a super delicate process. Best thing is rule number one, really good light. Rule number two, if your eyes are like mine, maybe some type of magnification, but usually you can just spread that box part apart and get a flat blade screwdriver in there and carefully pop that out, and then use some type of adhesive of your choice to put that back on there. By the way, Late Night Model Railroad, I have seen your YouTube channel. Very impressive. If you like switching layouts, and if you're like me and like woodworking, Late Night Model Railroad is a great YouTube channel to check out. He's doing a switching layout right now in HO scale. And if you're like me and you don't have a lot of room, that's a great resource. So check him out. Thanks for commenting, Late Night Model Railroad. And again, that's the name of his YouTube channel, so go check it out. It's a really nice little channel. Kevin, what about Athearn shirts? What about Athearn shirts? I have not seen any Athearn shirts. I've looked high and low. All I have is this Hawaiian shirt that I'm wearing right now. No, we are working on those shirts. We're going to do something a little bit different than we've done in the past. In fact, I'll be working on that this week, and hopefully we'll have something for you here in the future, not too distant future. So don't worry. I haven't forgotten about you, Kevin. I wouldn't do that. Oh, let's see. You're more than welcome. And yes, I did see your review on the GP39-2. You got the Kodachrome, if I remember right. And nice review. Nicely done. Let's see. "30 minutes till the Train World Virtual Train Show." Well, there's a channel you need to check out, and a shop that you also need to check out. It's Train World. Maybe you're one of those folks that forgot to pre-order something, and you're worried that you're not going to get it. Maybe like, I don't know, the N-Scale Big Boy. You might want to check out Train World. If your local dealer does not have the model that you're looking for, there's a good chance that they would have them. And we'll finish up here in a little bit, and that way you can get the guys that have signed up to go see Train World live can definitely go do that. Let me see. Jeff Wilson has a few good books. I just bought Freight Cars of the 40s and 50s and Modern Freight Cars. Yes, Jeff Wilson has a really good collection of books that he's written. And again, books are one of the best things that you can have as a model railroading tool in your toolbox. Yeah, we have the internet, and yeah, we can look at stuff, but you know, the book is, for a lot of us, just so much easier than trying to go through pages upon pages on the internet, for me anyways. And those are great resources. Never be afraid to pick up one of those books on the prototype or modeling in general at your local hobby shop. And Jim, yes, if you can, use your local dealer. Even I use my not so local dealer. He's about 45 minutes away, but I guarantee you, I go in there for one thing and I leave with something additional, because there's always great stuff to see in there, stuff that you're going to need, like those books we talked about. I know my dealer stocks a lot of those books. Steve, you put in a pretty good question, and I want to put it up there since you took the time to write it. Product suggestion: can we get generic Genesee and Wyoming engines that have options to add the actual rail lines? Currently, I get G&W available engines and put new decals on them from my own railroad, the PC and AP. That's a great question, a great comment. Thank you for asking us that. I would kindly ask you to put that in the product suggestion. And that is something that we could probably look into. Now, remember this past month, available till the end of the month, we have those hoppers where we painted them in black or brown, and they have all the data, but you can put your own logo on. You can put your own railroad logos on. And that's kind of the same thing. And it's gotten so anymore that the Genesee and Wyoming is all over the place from coast to coast. So definitely. Good suggestion. Gordon, he's like, hey, how about a BNSD 40-2B unit? Like I said, I started to, you remember Jonathan, our new developer? Yeah, he got tired of me talking trains with him, and he's like, Jim, I got development to do. That's my job. I develop stuff. Stop giving me more work to do. So you're going to have to use that product suggestion email. It looks like Todd's in agreement with that. There you go. Aaron, that's pretty cool. You got a cool comment that I'm going to throw up there just because it's something that we all are interested in. Aaron says he's mapped out tons of disused rights of way on Google Earth, and compiling some of the info into a book would be neat. Yeah, it definitely would. Now, I don't know if they're still available, but Steam Power Products used to make a great atlas for the United States and Canada. They were broken up into sections. And when I go rail fanning, I have the one for the Midwest. And it's a really cool resource because if you're on the Transcon, which is former Santa Fe, it'll tell you it was former Santa Fe line, even though currently it's BNSF. It will also show you lines that are no longer there, like in that particular instance between Toluca and Galesburg, there was the Rock Island and the CB&Q that crossed it. And it will show you that. And it'll kind of give you an idea where those are. And when you find them on the map, you can kind of find them in real life, and you find some neat artifacts sometimes. So yeah, definitely would be a cool suggestion. Looking for more Genesis chassis system locomotives like the GP40-2. Oh, those would be cool. Those would definitely be cool. I mean, I really miss Chessie. I thought Chessie was a cool paint scheme. And the GP40-2, we just remember back in December, we had some GP40-2s come into stock. So, yeah, it's probably about time to do another Genesis GP40-2 run. Chessie would be cool. I guess we'll see what happens. Let's see. We got time for one or two more questions. Have you seen the CP GP20-C Ecos like the one on the CP Holiday Train? I have seen the Holiday Train. I'm trying to remember if I saw that particular locomotive. I'm gonna err on caution and say no, because it was a while back when I did see that. They usually bring that Holiday Train through on former IC trackage from Gibson City all the way through to Clinton, Illinois, but I've missed it the last few years, so it's possible I have not. How about the GP40s or 38s and maintenance away CSX pumpkin paint? That's an idea. It's definitely an idea. How are the HO scale Bombardier cars coming along? Well, I don't know. All's been quiet in development, which tells me they're working on something, but they're not going to tell me because every time one of the guys in development tells me something, they're afraid I'm going to leak it. So I get so excited by this stuff. It's hard not to talk about it. I mean, I was talking to Janik just the other day, and he was telling me about this. Pretty excited about that. Hopefully my sound didn't cut out, but sometimes it does. All right, I'm going to pick out maybe one or two. Kevin, I saw your comment earlier about the top fan, and I'm not sure why you're not a top fan anymore. I don't really have control over that. I think it's a Facebook thing. So, yeah, I'm not sure. Have you been to Lippy? Honestly, I can't remember if you have or not. We do have some protocols that we do have. And while we're on that subject of social media, I just want to remind everybody that A, this is a hobby. B, we do have a lot of younger folks on our Facebook and social media. So if there is any type of, not PC correct language, we will remove it. And if it's abused, we'll actually have you removed too. So we want to keep it family friendly. This is a hobby that should be enjoyed by everybody. And I understand that we all have a passion for this hobby, but we just got to keep our language in check and just think about your fellow modelers. Just try to be nice. We don't want to, lose you because you couldn't control what was being typed. Yeah, it's like you said, Christian, it's Facebook. You can't really control it. I mean, and Todd says if he pledges his loyalty to Chessie, he can regain his top fan status. Well, there you go. It's that easy. I had no idea. West Coast Rail Fan, please see my message. When you say that, are you talking about in the comments section or an email or a Facebook message? I will be honest with you, with the Facebook messages, we don't really always have time to respond to those. West Coast Rail Fan. Southern Pacific SD9 red and gray. I have the feeling he's trying to tell us something. I don't know what. Live chat. Yeah, I think I got you, West Coast. If that's a suggestion, I know of 2 people, maybe 3 in Athearn that would love that suggestion. I don't know if you've done it yet, but please go over to our product suggestion email and throw that in there by all means. All right, guys. Man, every time I say I'm going to pull the pin, there's some great questions that come up. Do the Dash 9s have flashing ditch lights? The Norfolk Southern prototypes do. Another thing, too, that came up this past week, the BN SD60Ms, people are like, hey, the ditch lights don't flash right when I hit the horn. Remember, that's simulating the strobes that BN used in the 90s. It's not the flashing ditch lights that you see on Norfolk Southern. That was an experimental thing that Burlington Northern did in the early 90s. So it's a strobe. It's trying to simulate a strobe. So it's not programmed wrong or anything. I mean, if you really want to change the CV, you can, but they come from the factory is exactly how the prototype was. So don't think that they're broken. All right. Well, with that, I want to thank everybody for coming today. We had a great show. There was some great stuff from you guys sending in all of that great stuff for the Prime For Grime Contest. Keep your thinking caps on because we're going to be having more contests in the future. Thanks again for coming out and spending some time with me. And I look forward to hopefully seeing some of you guys at the shows as we open up this summer. But for right now, I want you guys to remember next Tuesday, we'll be back. We'll have our N scale edition. We've got some great N scale items for you, including the tank train. Remember the Genesis tank train in HO? Well, N scale guys, we thought of you too. We've got the tank train and N scale. So talk to your dealer if you've been interested in that. And what else have we? Well, we got so much in N scale. We'll find out next week. That's next Tuesday, 3:30 p.m. Central Daylight Time. Even though it's spring, it's snowing here. So until the next time we talk, I want you all to be happy, be healthy, be safe, do some modeling, and high greens, everybody.